What is going on, guys? It's Sean O'Connell, the managing director here at CinemaBlend, and hopefully by now you went to go see Spider-Man Far From Home, the continuation of Spidey's adventures in the MCU. We are going to talk in depth about how they landed that jaw-dropping and scream-inducing cameo, so that means we have to talk spoilers. If you have not seen the movie, please get away from here right now. Go see it, come back, continue watching the video. In the meantime, go down, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications. We post videos like this all of the time, and we don't want you guys to miss a single one of them. Why don't we start off by talking about what happens in the mid-credits sequence. So we see Peter Parker, he's back in Manhattan, and he's swinging his new love interest MJ through the streets of New York City. She's obviously kind of freaked out by this ability, but now that she's figured out his identity, she should sort of figure out who Spider-Man is and how he operates. Well, he's about to leave this little impromptu date that they were on when all of a sudden a screen on the side of Madison Square Garden in downtown Manhattan comes up and we hear a report about alternate facts based on the London attack that have been manipulated by Mysterio, Jake Gyllenhaal's character. Essentially, Jake Gyllenhaal is accusing Spider-Man of being responsible for the London drone attacks, and it turns out that the footage was given to the dailybugle.net, an inside joke and a wink and a nod and a reference to the Daily Bugle, which is a very important newspaper from the Spider-Man comics. But here's where things get really, really exciting. J. Jonah Jameson is the publisher of this new dailybugle.net, what looks to be sort of an InfoWars type rumor-spreading television show. He buys into the Mysterio myth. He says that Spider-Man is a menace, that he took down Mysterio, and then they show the last bit of footage that reveals that Peter Parker's identity is now out into the world, and Mysterio lets everybody know that Spider-Man is actually Peter Parker. It's not just that J. Jonah Jameson came back into the Spider-Man universe, but it's the fact that J.K. Simmons was actually portraying him, because we have not seen him do this character since those first three Sam Raimi films. And our crowd, once this happened, went absolutely nuts, because it's really hard to keep surprises from journalists in particular who are reading every single element of what's happening with a sequel. But this mid-credit sequence was such a shock, because yes, it's great that J. Jonah is back, but it's also amazing that they cast J.K. Simmons back into the role, and they didn't really care about the confusion of, oh, is he the Sam Raimi J. Jonah Jameson? They just knew that they needed him. So we had a chance to sit down with Jon Watts, the director of Spider-Man Far From Home, as part of the Real Blend podcast, and we started off our spoiler-filled conversation immediately with, tell us how you got J.K. Simmons to come back, and it was great. What I thought was really cool is that Jon Watts basically confirmed that the minute they knew they were going to introduce a media element and that it had to be the Daily Bugle, they knew it had to be J. Jonah Jameson. And when they talked about casting a potential replacement for Simmons, they realized that that was ridiculous. They never wanted to go down that route. They always had to get J.K. Simmons if they were going to bring J. Jonah Jameson back. And the minute that they proposed the idea to him, he was immediately on board. They literally waited until one of the very last days of production to shoot J. Jonah Jameson's cameo, because they tried to keep it as secret and as under wraps as possible. He talked about the fact that they filmed it essentially in a conference room at Marvel, and it was very basic, just a green screen and a desk, and Simmons just slipped back into the role and, took over the dialogue, turned into J. Jonah Jameson, and became that character that he made iconic years ago. It was also pretty funny that Watts told us they used the exact same video setup that they used to record the kids who did the high school message, the news broadcast about the tribute to the Avengers that opens up the movie. They used that exact same setup to shoot J.K. Simmons and bring it back. And of course, it doesn't have to be too elaborate. It's just a message that's being broadcast on the side of a screen. But it's really cool how they waited till the very last minute to sort of shoot that Simmons cameo, so that as very few people knew the truth about that scene as possible. Because they brought J.K. Simmons back, I really hope that this isn't just a one-off appearance by the character. I want them to bring J. Jonah Jameson into the MCU and use him properly. Like, cast J.K. Simmons, bring him back for multiple stories, because now that J. Jonah is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and a casual antagonist for Spider-Man, there's so many different places that you can go, especially with the reveal of his secret identity. There have been multiple times where J. Jonah Jameson has tried to out Spider-Man and figure out who his secret identity is. So now that Mysterio has done it, Marvel can sort of fast forward to some really exciting storylines, like J. Jonah Jameson one time funded the creation of the Scorpion, and we've already met the Scorpion in Spider-Man Homecoming. He's in prison right now with the Vulture, so you could figure out a way to bring him back. It is really cool that the MCU is still finding ways to surprise Spider-Man fans, even though we've seen him on screen multiple times, and the Spider-Man Far From Home mid-credits scene really qualifies to me as one of the most jaw-dropping and shocking and really exciting ways to end a Spider-Man movie that I think I've ever seen on screen before. But I want to find out what you guys thought about it. What was your reaction when you saw that they brought that actor back to play this role, and what was the reaction of the audience that you saw Far From Home with? Go down to the comment section, tell me exactly how it happened, because I love hearing these great stories. And if you want to hear the full ReelBlend interview with Spider-Man Far From Home director Jon Watts, make sure to seek out the ReelBlend podcast. We have both a spoiler-filled and a spoiler-free conversation with the director, where he gets into all of the ins and outs of the recording of this new Spider-Man sequel, Spider-Man Far From Home. And again, while you're in the comments section, go down, hit subscribe, and turn on your notifications, because we're always posting good content like this here on CinemaBlend's YouTube page, and you guys do not want to miss it.
I finally got to him. The power of the press triumphs.